jury in the John Edwards federal corruption trial will begin deliberating his fate on Friday. Defense attorneys for the former presidential candidate rested their case about an hour ago without calling John Edwards or his former mistress to the stand. Let's bring in our legal experts, Joey Jackson, a former prosecutor, and Dwane Cates, a criminal defense attorney. So, gentlemen, quite a surprise here. Suddenly, the defense is just done. They barely made it through 3 days, Joey. The prosecution took 14 for their case. You know, what's your initial reaction to this?
The reaction is that John Edwards is in trouble, and here's why. What had happened here, Jenna, is this. What the defense wanted to do was to put on Chairman Thomas from the Election Commission. And in the Federal Election Commission, he was supposed to explain how these donations were personal in nature. They don't run afoul of any types of laws to speak of. He was going to cite to past cases to give the indication that everything here was above board and legal. But the problem is that the defense got that testimony precluded. That is, the judge did not even allow it. It was a major blow to the defense. So now you're left with a couple of other witnesses, like Laura Haggard, for example, who was the chairperson, at least financially, of the campaign. And what she did was she said, you know what, Mr. Edwards had nothing to do with what we did. He wasn't involved in any disclosures. He didn't know anything at all in terms of what we were doing. But you know what, Jenna, the buck stops with him. Here's a person who was a United States senator, completely familiar with federal law, who ran for vice president, familiar with federal law, was running for president, and therefore he should have known. And then, of course, finally, they put on Jim Walsh, who's the private investigator, to show all of these flow charts with this $750,000 that was not going to the campaign. But from the prosecution's perspective, Jen, of course it wasn't going to the campaign, because that's how they were hiding it.
Well, Dwane, if the defense is in so much trouble, then why wouldn't they put John Edwards on the stand?
They couldn't put John Edwards on the stand. He has so many problems with his credibility. He has so many problems with his likability. Nobody likes John Edwards.
So do you agree that the defense is in trouble? Do you think Joey's right, that the defense really is in trouble here? So they just, cut bait and said, all right, we're done?
You know, didn't we learn anything from the Casey Anthony case? You know, you can't take a case that's thin on facts and then just pile on the unlikable factor on John Edwards. I mean, most of this trial was making John Edwards look bad, and that wasn't hard to do because he did some pretty bad things. And, they're trying to get him to hate, the jury to hate John Edwards, and the evidence is so confusing about who gave money, when the money gave, who knew about the money. There's conflicting evidence all over the place. The state's key witness has no credibility. In fact, the state's key witness got 80% of the money. He got to keep it, and he's not been charged with anything.
So, Joey,
I think that...
Joey, let me have you jump in. You do have closing arguments here as the prosecutor. So how do you prove and how do you wrap this up beyond a reasonable doubt that John Edwards did something illegal when it came to campaign finance, not when it comes to being kind of a jerk?
Very simply. I don't think it's absolutely, Jenna. Very simply, I don't think it's confusing at all. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is about a person who wanted to hide his mistress, who was pregnant, from public view. And he did it in a way that was improper and illegal. He fully had knowledge of what the campaign finance laws were, but he ran afoul of those and thereby exceeded the limits that should have been spent here. Why did the money go to Andrew Young? Why did it go to Sherry Young? So that they could circumvent you, so that he could come and deny at some later point that he knew nothing about it. Is it really, it offends common sense to think that someone's running for president and has no knowledge whatsoever in terms of where money is going for their campaign when it's their mistress, and that would be the very reason that they would be denied high office.
Dwane,
high office. Let us be clear here.
Dwane, that's pretty good.
Guilty.
But Joey,
Dwane, what do you do?
Here's the thing. Number one, I think there's an appealable issue with not allowing the auditors to come in and testify that they audited the campaign and found that they did nothing wrong. And they said, well, because we didn't know what they considered. Well, that's what cross-examination's for. That evidence should have came in.
But Dwane,
again,
you can only get appeal if you get convicted.
Well, I understand that, and I said if he gets convicted. I don't think he gets convicted because I don't think a jury can figure out exactly where the money went, what it was intended for, who paid, where did it go. I don't think that they can prove that beyond a reasonable doubt.
It went to Riel Hunter.
It's very confusing.
It went to Riel Hunter. It was intended to hide the affair he was having for.
20% of it went to only 20% of it went to Riel Hunter.
Well, we'll
only
see.
20%.
The appeal could be interesting to take a look at as well. We'll see what happens with these closing arguments and see what the jury thinks. It's not an easy case. We'll have both of you back to talk more about it. It's been very interesting. John and I both were looking forward to John Edwards' testimony and Real Hunter. Joey, I think we talked about it as well, but no dice. We don't get it.
Couldn't do it. Too damaging.
We'll see what comes out of this, guys. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.